Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. Chapter 3, A Triumph at School. Bright and early Monday morning, Miranda drove Rebecca to school in River Center in a horse and wagon she borrowed from a neighbor. The little schoolhouse with its flagpole on top and its two doors in front, one for boys and the other for girls, stood on the crest of a hill. There were rolling fields and meadows on one side and a stretch of pine woods on the other. In the distance, the pleasant river sparkled in the morning sunlight. Miranda led Rebecca inside the schoolhouse and introduced her to her teacher, Miss Dearborn, who gave her new student a stack of books and ushered her to the seat. From the bright spot, school was a bright spot in Rebecca's life. She loved her studies and enjoyed her classmates immensely, particularly Emma Jane Perkins, who lived near her. The two girls walked in school together almost every day. Sometimes they were joined by the Simpson children, a large, unruly brood, whose clothes were always patched and darned. They reminded Rebecca of her own big family. Miss Dearborn had so much trouble deciding what grade to put Rebecca in that after 2 weeks she finally gave up. Rebecca joined Dick Carter and Living Perkins' reading group, studied arithmetic with lisping little Thuven Thompson, exploring geography with Emma Jane, and learned history with Alice Robinson. After school, she agonized over grammar with Miss Dearborn. Despite her struggle with spelling and punctuation, Rebecca loved to write poetry and sent many of her best poems to her mother and her brother John, who kept them in a box with his bird eggs. Every Friday afternoon, the students at Riverboro Center School gave a recital of songs, poems, and speeches for an audience of parents and younger brothers and sisters. But the students hated this event, and Miss Dearborn always went home with a throbbing headache. However, an amazing thing happened when Rebecca arrived on the scene. She loved these Friday recitals and participated so wholeheartedly that her enthusiasm was catching. Soon her classmates were reciting their pieces with zeal and were really enjoying themselves. Miss Dearborn was so pleased that she invited a group of community leaders to attend a special Friday afternoon performance. On the morning of the recital, Living Perkins, a budding artist, decorated one of the blackboards with a map of North America. On the other blackboard, Rebecca, who was equally talented, drew the American flag with a figure of Columbia, copied from the top of a cigar box. Miss Dearborn was delighted. "Let's give Rebecca a big hand for drawing such a beautiful picture," she exclaimed, standing back and admiring her students' artwork. "This is something the whole school can be proud of. Living and Rebecca should sign their pictures so all visitors will know who drew them," Dick Carter called from the back of the room. As her classmates clapped and cheered in approval, Rebecca's heart leaped for joy. She had spent her young life working hard and had never received such praise. It was a moment of great triumph. Miss Dearborn dismissed the morning session early so the children who lived nearby could go home and change their clothes for the recital. Emma Jane and Rebecca ran nearly every step of the way. Rebecca found the side door of the brick house locked, but she knew the key was under the steps. She unlocked the door and went into the dining room to find her lunch on the table. There was a note from Aunt Jane saying they had gone to moderation with Mrs. Robinson. Rebecca gulped down a piece of bread and butter and flew up the top of the stairs to her bedroom. On the bed lay the pink gingham dress Aunt Jane had just finished making that morning. "Do I dare wear it without asking?" Rebecca wondered. "I don't see why Aunt Miranda and Aunt Jane would mind. After all, it's only gingham." Hurriedly, Rebecca put on the pretty pink gingham dress, unbraided her pigtails, combed out her hair, and tied in the back with a ribbon. Just for fun, she picked up her cherished pink parasol to show the girls at school. On the way out, she noticed that the clock in the front hall said 20 minutes to 1. She would have to hurry to get back to school on time. "Rebecca Randall!" exclaimed Emma Jane as the two girls met at the entrance of the school. "You're pretty as a picture, but how on earth did your Aunt Miranda let you wear that brand new dress?" "They were both away, so I couldn't ask," Rebecca exclaimed on the front steps. "Why, do you think she'd say no?" "Miss Miranda always says no, doesn't she?" said Emma Jane. "Yes," Rebecca said as she opened the door to the front door of the school for a friend, "but this is a very special occasion." Rebecca had never been more right in her life. The morning was The afternoon was simply one triumph after another for the performers. The parents were as proud as peacocks, and Miss Dearborn received many complimentary remarks about her teaching ability. However, she couldn't help but wonder if some of the credit shouldn't go to Rebecca, who was a natural leader and inspired her classmates to do their best. The bright-eyed girl stood on the center of the stage, and her voice soared of all the rest of the lovely chorus. All eyes were upon her, and the crowd clapped wildly when the recital came to an end. Afterwards, Rebecca walked home happily and proud. Thick clouds were gathering in the sky, but the excited child never noticed. When she entered the side yard of the brick house, she saw Miranda standing in the open doorway, her hands on her hips and a scowl on her face. Poor Rebecca's heart sank. Instantly, she knew there was trouble ahead. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.